On this program, you'll have the unique opportunity to listen in on a remarkable conversation with 4 inspiring guests, all of whom have been convicted of serious crimes and have spent years in prison. However, while in prison, each got involved in a tremendously successful program called Rehabilitation through the Arts, and it changed their lives then and now. The recidivism rate for RTA alumni is 7% compared to the national average of around 60%. And on this program, they'll share their personal experiences with the Rehabilitation Through the Arts program. This is America and the World is brought to you by Japan, history, hospitality, and advanced technology, sharing tomorrow. The Washington Diplomat, a world of news and perspective. The Sultanate of Oman. The U.S.-China Education Trust and F.Y. Chang Foundation, Julia Chang Block, President. The Rotondaro Family Trust. The Forerunner Foundation, dedicated to forward-thinking public policy. And the Embassy Series, uniting people through musical diplomacy, presenting international artists in diplomatic settings. Let's shift the conversation, if you're all willing, to focus on RTA.
Rehabilitation through the arts.
Lead us off, because you're the director of operations, huh?
I am very blessed to.
What did you say, Jeff?
Yeah. Moved all the way up.
Yes. Yes.
I am blessed to have a job working for Rehabilitation Through the Arts, and I was just promoted to the director of operations, which, because I did everything, they said we have to give a title that just encompasses everything, so he can no longer say that's not his job. So everything is my job. That's how that came about. But Rehabilitation Through the Arts is a program that was started in 1996 by Catherine Watkins in Sing Sing Correctional Facility. And she just simply was there. Her husband was a professor at one of the college programs in the institution, and she was there as his spouse, and she attended the graduation, and she asked one of the participants who was sitting down, do they have a theater program here? And he responded, no, can you help us get one, because we're writing plays and we want to, perform them. And so she thought it was a great idea, and she put in a proposal, and 23 years later, we have a very successful program called Rehabilitation Through the Arts, which operates in 5 New York State correctional facilities, 4 men's and 1 women's correctional facility, Bedford Hills. We are in 3 maximum security prisons and 2 minimum. I mean, 2 medium. There's no more minimum.
And so what happens in the program? So you mentioned theater.
Yes.
But it's different arts, isn't it?
Yes, we have theater, we have visual arts, we have creative writing, we have poetry, we have modern dance, hip-hop dance, and we're even, the sky's the limit as far as the arts goes as we move forward. I'd like to turn it over to Jeff. This is one of our esteemed visual artists who just did a beautiful art show in July in Asanino.
Well, he gave me the privilege of looking at some of his art on his phone, and
amazing, right?
we're going to work out a way to incorporate some of those into the program. I think we'll find a way to do that. So go ahead. You take up the thread. How were you introduced to the program? Just take it.
So,
Sing Sing, right?
I was in Sing Sing Correctional Facility. I got there in 2008. They were performing a play there, and I decided, you know what, let me go. I ain't got nothing else to do. Let me go in.
That's kind of a funny thing to say.
It's funny.
I mean, to me.
I felt I didn't have anything else to do, because at this time I already started, my mind already shift gears of, I want to do something better with myself. Mm-hmm. It's just that there weren't really any things in the facilities to do something better with yourself that you wanted to do. The only thing was there was like mandatory program, but that was just for funding. Right. It's a front. A lot of the program, it's just for funding. We're gonna give you this anger program. We're gonna give you this drug treatment program. And whether you need it or not, you're gonna take it, because it's a requirement. But anyways, I already got all that stuff out the way, what was mandatory for me to do. After that, it's just, I have all this time, but I don't know what to get into. But So I decided to go to see this play in the auditorium. It was a free play, free play, and I think they was giving out snacks. I think they gave out snacks this time. No, what it was? Somebody was bringing snacks, so I was like, I'm going. So I went to this play and I seen this prisoners, performing, or I seen my peers performing at a Broadway level. And the whole time I'm at the edge of my seat, just captivated in what was going on. And I remember the exact moment where I think it might have been Macbeth. I think it might have been Macbeth. Where it was kind of like a sword fight, and someone's sword, it was a prop, it broke. And how quick they picked it up and improvised. I remember that exact moment being a moment where I say, I can do that. That's probably the exact same thing I would have did. Because during a play, you don't plan for your prop to just break. And the way the person picked up and improvised, like I was already captivated. Just that creativity right there, it was enough for me to be like, you know what? I know that I can do that. He just did that same thing I would have did. And from there, it was like, I got to get on that stage. I got to do this. I got to get up there. And that's the first time I could think of my mind, like me saying to myself that I have to do this. And eventually I got the opportunity to do it. So I started, when I first got in the program, I started in the arts program, in the arts class, where basically they teach you different foundations of art. They teach you art history. There is no set skill requirement. You could be professional, or you can be someone that never painted or drew anything in your life. And just being in that program, it teaches you discipline, and it also teaches you just the cultural being of doing art, the foundation of doing art, whether it's drawing, sketching, painting, whatever it is, paper mache, is different type of arts. And I still, even though I was in this program, in this class, this workshop, I still had in my mind that I want to get on that stage. I still had in my mind. So it has different opportunities with RTA. The next thing that helped me after the art class was the public speaking. I was terrified of speaking in front of groups. But I already knew in my mind that if I wanted to be on that stage, I had to do something to break the fear of speaking in front of people. So the public speaking class was something that was big for me, and it helped me in every area of my life.
Let me ask this question. Are you screened, or can you just sign up for the program?
Well,
how does that
one
work?
of the requirements, you're not eligible yet, sorry, because you have to be incarcerated to get it. So
It's only a few hours.
Yeah, it's only
Only a few hours.
no, the program's open up to any of the residents of the facility that you're in. Just unfortunately, in our maximum security prisons, there's a long waiting list because the program is so successful that we don't have a big turnover until someone goes on the draft or they go home.
Or go to college.
The draft means that you go from another facility. You're not home yet, but like for instance, when I was in Sing Sing and I went on the draft to Woodburn Correctional Facility, you get transferred from one facility to another. That's the draft. So you either get draft or you go home. So it's two choices.
That's another problem with the system too, but that's another story.
But it's open to anyone who is incarcerated, regardless of what your crime is, because we're about rehabilitation.
So did you do theater as well?
I did theater.
Theater?
I actually started off, and one of the things that I did, I joined RTA in 2004, and I did, we were doing August Wilson's play Jitney.
Sure.
My role was ringing the phone. I was not on stage, I was off stage with my keyboard. But that whole thing, because the director, Dr. Joanna Chan, she would always talk us through it, to make sure we understood the relationship between characters, to make sure that we understood the story that we were telling, so we could just tell the best story possibly that August Wilson had wrote. And she asked us in one of our conversations, what's the most important role in this play? And somebody would say, Becker, because, my son's coming home and I'm trying to, and then he's like, Becker, no, but I'm saying everybody thought their role was the most important, which they should. And she said, yes, you're all right, just like any nice grandmother would do. But she says the most important role in the play was the phone. because it moved the whole play. And I didn't, everybody's like, oh, it made sense because it was a cab. The story is based on a cab station. And in order for you to get a cab, you have to call in. So the way she described it, the phone had lines because I had to ring. The phone was a queue for the next person. Sure. And the way she explained it, it was like, wow. And so that just changed my whole life about incarceration because I was like, oh my God, I'm important. I gotta go to rehearsal. They need me. Oh, I gotta ring the phone. I need to play. So it actually changed my whole dynamic of how I thought about myself because before I joined RTA, my self-esteem was still down as a result of the crime that I had committed, as a result of being incarcerated, and being a part of RTA in this particular play, Jitney, really helped boost my self-esteem and to say, look, there is life after this, you know, and gradually but slowly I became the person I am today.
Can I share? I told you this is your program. I was going to stay out of the way, but you just. I think I probably was 15 years old, and I was working at a summer stock theater. And in those days, they would do what they call a star package. So that they would come in, the play had already been rehearsed, it was a big star, who was probably on the way out, you know, but they would come and play a week. And I was given one line, off stage, on a voice machine that would, you know, project onto the stage. And it was Groucho Marx. That's going back a few years.
You know,
I said at the beginning, older white male.
You did.
I did. Groucho Marx. The show is called Time for Elizabeth. And the line was, Mr. Johnson of our Detroit agency is in town. Will you see him now?
Wow.
On the speakerphone. I blew it. I blew it. I wasn't even on stage. I was reading right off the script. I blew the line and never appeared on stage, and Groucho Marx cut me to ribbons with ad-libs and lines. It was my introduction to the theater. I never was interested in being an actor. Wow. Director, stage manager, yes, and then into media. But so when you thought the ring was important,
you got one job. You just got one.
That's my contribution to the conversation. What art did you go for?
Well, every time you think of when you first heard about rehabilitation through the arts, you can't help but to smile and daydream about it because.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Why?
I'll tell you. My mother had just passed away. I was in my funk, of course, still grieving. And my best friend, till this day, Pamela Smart, was always busy. And I was wondering, where are you going around here? What is there to do?
Why are you so busy?
Why are you so busy? So she said, well, I'm going to RTA. And I didn't know what that was. I thought it was a anger management program that has the same acronym almost, ART. Yeah. So I was wondering, where was she going? And then she invited me to a play that she was putting on through RTA, which was called Amazing Grace. And my first time seeing it, and I point to Anitria because Anitria, weren't you in it?
I was not.
You were not in it, but
I had planned on being.
You planned on, okay, because that's how we connected through RTA. That's how most of us connect. But so when I first saw it, I was sitting in like the second row. It was like 100 and something degrees in the auditorium, which is the gym. And I'll never forget when I saw my peers, you know, the more masculine women, the more feminine women that you always see in green, because that's our uniform, but they had on regular clothes. They were entertaining. And as Jeff said earlier, it was a professional Broadway level of quality. So that was my thing. In high school, I had done Ntozake Shange's For Color Girls Who Consider Suicide When the Rainbow Isn't Enough. Very long title. That was one of my favorite. Yeah, she just passed away.
Yes.
It was one of my favorite plays. I played Lady in Brown. I loved it at my high school in Baltimore. And I put on 2 plays then. So it was a throwback for me. It was like, this is here in prison? It was a sense of freedom. Like, what is this doing here? And I was so engrossed and I loved it. And I was like, wow. And I was just flabbergasted. I said, I'm joining. And that very summer, in that heat, I joined. And every medium from theater, we put on a full production of The Wiz, which I had never seen before, but I ended up playing the Scarecrow, which was a Michael Jackson part, which also made me nervous because I had never seen it. And then I said,
killed that.
And when I saw it afterwards, I was like, okay, I did pretty good. I was really proud of myself.
Yes.
It gave me a sense of, I needed something to do anyway there, as Jeff said, because I just came from the military. I was used to working and doing stuff.
So let me understand. Do you do it like every day or a couple of times a week?
You sign up
or?
for it, which shows the meritability of everyone that is in RTA, whether alumni or still incarcerated, that you signed up for. It wasn't a mandatory program that was based upon your case, which was, you know. So by you signing up for it, it's mediums that you can go into, whether it be art, theater, poetry, which I did art. Well, I'm sorry, I did theater. I did the poetry. Yeah. I did the physical theater. They had comedy. I had done that. I'm not a comedian at all. So I had fun, but I realized that it chipped away some of the heartache and hardness of being incarcerated and in that particular type of environment. And I found pleasure in it, and it gave me a sense of self. And creativity was just, that fire was lit again. And to this day, I sometimes go back to those days so that it can help me forward even here, out here now. And I take so much pleasure in having even participated, because it was very tough to get to me, but the facilitators were great, from Ann Lloyd to Michael Menard to so many, Craig Cullinane, all of our facilitators and everyone who volunteered to come in and teach us were top-notch professionals.
Yes. What did you choose?
I actually came at the last minute. I was actually supposed to be a part of what Judah had discussed, the Amazing Grace, but things happened. I didn't understand it, so I was never allowed to participate in it at that time. However, I became a part of the RTA production. Then I went on a draft, but then I came back. And at the very end of Judah's production, I was asked to be part of the stage management. And I did some of the artwork, and it was just like awesome. And then after I watched Judah's performance, I was just blown away. I was like, oh, she's capable of doing that? And then
Thanks, because you might not know.
Yes, you would never know. And then like the skills, the gifts, and the talents that she portrayed, I said, you would have never known that our peers that we're incarcerated with were capable of doing such wonderful things. And I said, well, if she can do that in spite of all that she's gone through, and then see life with a beautiful, that has a beautiful meaning, I said, if she can do it, I'm going to use that to do what she does. And as a result,
I just want to jump in here and say something, because like a lot of times when we go around, Jeff, I, and all of us, we do presentations to educate the public. She just made a statement that just bugs me when she said that if she's capable of doing it, like, you know, we're all human beings. That's one thing that sometimes the people, you know, mainstream society forgets. So you get incarcerated, they kind of forget that we're just human beings who've made a bad decision.
That's true.
And why are you so surprised that she can act? Why are you so surprised that he can do visual arts? Why are you so surprised that she's a wonderful singer? These are just human beings that are paying back our debt to society, because we did break the law. And society says if you break the law, you go to prison. But you're still a human being. And that's one of the things that RTA tries to foster back in, to bring back the humanness of the incarcerated, and to try to help society understand that these are still human beings.
You have some sociology in your background?
I do. I actually have a bachelor's in sociology.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit. And so what Charles just said, taking advantage of your background, what are some of the facts and some of the myths about people in prison?
That, the one thing that disturbs me the most is that when you're in prison, you're kind of broken down to feel subhuman. And as a result of that, sometimes you don't know what you're capable of. And for many of us Black people, because we don't have the resources, or we didn't have the opportunity to really develop whatever skill or talent that we do have, we don't know what we're capable of until we're given the opportunity. And unfortunately in prison, you're not always given that opportunity, and it's normally suppressed. So you don't know, okay, I have the ability to do this. And as a sociology major, you learn how people view the world. You know how the world view you depending on who you are. If you're Black, if you're white, if you're Spanish, if you're from another country, you learn the dynamics of what it is to be human and to be a part of your culture. And unfortunately, as a Black person in the United States of America, you learn that you're really not considered a part of the mainstream. You're just kind of like flushed under the rug to be, even though we're not considered anymore to be 3/5 human, you're still treated as such. So when you're a black person incarcerated, you're made to feel as if you are still almost, unfortunately, the scum of the earth. And I say that because so many women, so many men, I can say men as well, feel that way because of the way we're treated, the things that are said to us, their people's perception of who they think we are. So RTA actually helps you learn that you're more than just human. You're more than just a black person. You're a human in the big sense of the word, and that you're capable of doing so many things than what society portrays you to be. You're not just a criminal with a criminal background. You're a person who may have committed a crime, yes, but you're a person who's able to contribute so much to society as long as you're given the opportunity to do that. And as a sociologist, and that is something that I would like to pursue, a PhD in sociology, you learn that there's so many things in this world that you don't know. And that's people in general. I mean, we're all ignorant, not because we're incapable of learning. We're ignorant simply because we don't know outside of ourselves. And even though this world is a big word, you may know a lot, but there's so much more you can learn. And that's including learning more about who we are as individuals and about other people who are different from us. And one of the things that I've learned most about being a sociologist is that when we don't exercise the beautiful, wonderful qualities of love and forgiveness, it seems like it lessens our humanity, because it's like, well, if we don't know what love is, or we don't know what forgiveness is, how can we forgive someone who has committed a crime against us? But by doing that, we block ourselves from learning who people are. And being black in America, you don't really know what's out there. And if not given the opportunity, how are you going to grow? And if all you know is a life of crime, that's all you're going to experience. That's all you're going to do is criminal behaviors. And that's not what the world wants. Because if they did, I won't go there yet, but it's difficult.
What do you want to say? Go ahead.
Okay, so when you're a black person living in America, if all you know is a world of crime, that's all you're going to do. It's like a revolving door. So if you know that the world only offers violence, then that's what you're going to experience, and that's what you may do, or that's what you're going to be expected to have done to you, is just violence. But if you know that you can actually overcome violence, you can actually learn more about violence, so that anyone who commits a violent act against you, instead of reacting, you'll respond to it in a way that is beneficial to everyone involved. Doesn't mean that the act is going to necessarily harm you. If it does, you can deal with it appropriately so that you can contribute to society, or continue to contribute, instead of taking away from society, meaning maybe taking other people's lives and making other people's lives miserable. Yes, someone has committed a crime against me and it was a violent act. However, I want to do something to give back to my community, so that the next person who does something to me will know that regardless of what they've done, they can be forgiven of this crime. And maybe by this forgiveness, they can allow themselves to be a beautiful person, a different person, learn from their mistakes, and actually give that to someone else in return. And as a sociologist, you learn that there's so much in this world that a lot of people who are incarcerated don't know about.
Exposure is necessary.
Exposure.
That's
yes.
Yeah. That's one of the key things.
Yes.
Exposure to things that are outside of yourselves. This is how we bridge the gap on things such as race, such as violence, such as, for someone who came from Baltimore City, I learned more about violence in the military. And then someone who went to the military, and I learned about violence there, but I learned what it actually looks like in prison, in ways that it develops through prison. I learned more in prison than I did in the education system. Right. Because I wasn't necessarily exposed. It was all around me. I come from Baltimore City, the highest murder rate there is in this country. They're ranked at least 1 or 2. But I wasn't exposed to it in the sense that I was sheltered. And then I came from a religious family. And then you have those separations from those things. You run into certain things. But being incarcerated helped me to see exactly how violence plays out when there's lack of compassion, when there's lack of understanding, when we don't take the time to if we don't have access to be exposed to
Yes.
other people of other cultures, their traditions, their what they feel, and when we're not listened to, we don't expect anyone else to listen to us.
Right.
When we're not exposed, all we know is the world from a very we don't have a peripheral vision to the rest of the world.
Next time on This is America and the World, our conversation with our alumni from Rehabilitation Through the Arts concludes. We'll talk out loud about why it's so hard to talk about race in America. For information about This is America and the World, visit our website, thisisamerica.net, or our YouTube channel, This is America TV, and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. This is America and the World is brought to you by Japan, History, Hospitality, and Advanced Technology, Sharing Tomorrow. The Washington Diplomat, a world of news and perspective. The Sultanate of Oman. The U.S.-China Education Trust and F.Y. Chang Foundation. Julia Chang Block, President. The Rotondaro Family Trust. The Forerunner Foundation, dedicated to forward-thinking public policy. And the Embassy Series, uniting people through musical diplomacy, presenting international artists in diplomatic settings.